So this story is gonna be something that not a lot of people will be able to watch without being very uncomfortable. And I just want to say straight up, this video is gonna contain some kind of messed up shit. So if you're not exactly the best with dark humor, I suggest you leave. It's gonna be a bit offensive, not a bit offensive, quite as in offensive. So if you're not into that, bye bye. But for the people who are still here, let me tell you why I was a suicidal sixth grader, which is remarkably young. Remarkably young for being suicidal and having these suicidal thoughts or ideations, whatever. So the story goes like this. I was going through a pretty bad psychotic episode. It started in fifth grade, near the end of fifth grade, where my grandfather died, and I was hearing his voice following me around, talking to me. Sometimes I would break down and start crying because of the things he said. And my teacher took me outside when I started crying, and she's like, "Why are you crying? Man up. Be a man. Come on." You're telling that to a fifth grader. And so, continuing on, that lasted from the end of fifth grade all the way into my sixth grade year. I want to say around the first quarter is when I found something that allowed me to cope, and that was dark humor. So I would go around singing about. Oh, sorry, there's a moving truck outside right now, so I'm just gonna wait for it to go. But essentially, I would sing about some really messed up stuff. I would sing. I was a fan of these parody songs, so I would create parody songs of my own. And granted, this was me in sixth grade, so it's not exactly the most prime age to be talking about inappropriate, offensive jokes. But regardless, so I was telling these two people a joke. No, these three people a joke. Right. This was during recess, sixth grade. Still have recess, and we were sitting underneath this little open space where it has like a couple trees and nice grassy ground and all that. And I was talking to them, and I was like, "Hey, you want to hear a song?" And they were like, "Sure, yeah." I was like, "Okay, it's gonna be messed up, but I'm gonna sing the song, but I'm gonna replace my name with my real name, or I'm gonna replace my real name with my pseudonym." So essentially, it was around Christmas, and I would be like, "Xavier's the red-nosed rapist, had a very shiny van, and if you ever saw him, he would want to give you hand." And that seemed like not that bad of a thing, right? But one of the people, I'm not gonna say who, one of the people got very, very offended, and they asked their mom what a rapist was. And see, the thing was, I was making fun of myself because I found that when I make jokes about people, it didn't necessarily go well. I shouldn't have been making a joke about rape, period. But especially as a sixth grader. But when it came down to it, I knew that making fun of myself would be the best way to avoid conflict. But I still ran into conflict because when that person told their mother about it, the mother went straight to the principal, and I had to sit down with the principal and talk about it. So it was really not that bad. The reasoning behind why I did it wasn't that bad. I mean, the reason I told them wasn't that bad. It was because one of the other kids who were there, me telling the joke when I was telling the joke, he was one of my old friends, and he used to make fun of me for kissing this girl, and I was like, okay, yeah, he pokes fun at me, so I'm gonna poke fun back at him, make jokes, make whatever, He kind what he said to me kind of ticked me off, which is why I am so open to dark humor because one, it lets me cope, and two, it's sort of a good way to poke fun at people. But my school thought that was essentially me holding a deep seated hateful grudge that burned with passion and hate when it really wasn't. It was more, hey, he used to poke fun at me, I'm gonna poke fun at him. And I'm gonna poke fun at him by making jokes, which wasn't always the best option. But I wanted to poke fun at him. And we used to make sick jokes back and forth all the time. You know, this was the time in my life where I was finally starting to learn that people can get genuinely offended by what you say. But the way that my school reacted really made me question myself. I would stay up at night crying, thinking, what did I do wrong? I mean, yeah, it's an offensive joke. I've made offensive jokes in the past, but did it really warrant psychoanalyzation to the point where they create this reality that isn't true? Like, it was messed up. Like the way that my principal and the way that my vice principal put it, they were like, "Oh, he is struggling with very bad anger problems. He is struggling with this and that, this and that, this and that. He was struggling with things that, to me, I wasn't struggling with. See, I did have a anger problem because I would bottle everything up, and sometimes I would get out. I'd get into fights every now and then, but this was nothing compared to real anger. It was poking fun. And the way that they put it, they're like, oh, he must be seething and loathing and despising. When in reality, it was none of those things. It was just poking fun. And that's something that really got to me. And so the person who told their parents about it, or told her parents about it, or told their parents about it, same thing happened again. I was making sick jokes. I was making offensive jokes. She overheard, and she told her parents again. And then I was sent to my counselor to talk about my anger problems. Now, I didn't tell any of the teachers or staff that I knew and remembered the exact lyrics. I didn't tell them that because I thought that I would get in trouble if I told them that. And so the girl, she said I was singing an Eminem song, which at the time I didn't even know who Eminem was. So that was pretty out of nowhere. I don't know where she got Eminem, but or Eminem, I don't know. But same thing happened again. She told her mother, or they told her mother, and that got me into trouble again. I had to go meet with my counselor and talk about my anger problems. It really wasn't anger problems, honestly. It was just poking fun, and I like to make dark humor. And that sort of sent me into a downward spiral because that made my psychosis worse. That made my psychotic tendencies worse. That made the voice in my head worse. And there were times in my life where I wouldn't get a wink of sleep because I'd be laying in bed hearing the voice of my dead grandfather talking to me about how I'm a failure, how about I'm just a piece of shit who doesn't deserve anything, who because he makes sick jokes, and that means I don't deserve life. So I made my phone wallpaper, "Somebody please kill me." And my mother saw that and she was like, "Whoa, change that." Although it didn't turn into anything. She was just like, "Oh, change that." So I changed it. But genuinely, I wanted to kill myself because I couldn't find that there was any point in living anymore. If the one thing that I used to be able to cope through the hard times was so detrimental and hateful and filled with offensiveness that can only hurt other people, why the hell should I even try to cope? Because that's the one thing that worked for me. And if I can't do it for myself, and if I can't do it for others, then what's the point? So I wanted to kill myself. And I didn't tell anyone about that because I felt like I'd blow it up into even more of a situation. I thought it would turn into something where I was just even worse off. So I bottled up my feelings like I learned how to do, and I moved on. Of course, I didn't kill myself, obviously, but I thought about it many times. So let me tell you right now, the lesson that I learned, this cautionary tale. You need to be honest. And I know that's kind of a weird thing for me to be saying, but if in this situation I had actually told my counselor, not my counselor, oh yeah, actually yeah, my counselor, my vice principal, and my principal, if I had told them the truth, then I'm pretty sure it wouldn't have affected me as that badly. But at least now you learned. Be honest when you can. Fuck little white lies. It doesn't matter whose feelings you might hurt if you're the one who's being hurt in the end as well. So, that's my little story. If you have any questions, my DMs and stuff are always down below. Social media, Twitter, Instagram, whatever. And if you are in an emergency, I have emergency links down below. So, I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you learned something from this pretty long video that I have absolutely no idea how I'm gonna edit. Anyway, I'll see you in the next one. Ohui ho, malao pono.